So good to have you all here. And today we're talking about God as Aloha. When we're talking about Aloha, we're talking about being very welcoming, being inclusive, not excluding people, not shutting people out, not being rude. We're talking about really listening, being really present. We're talking about being reconciling with one another, forgiving one another, not holding grudges. I think in our heart, we all know what aloha is because who we really are in the inside is the presence of God. And God is that presence of aloha. It's not like Hawaii created this. This comes from the eternal. This comes from that eternal presence to be open, to be loving, to be reconciling. Doesn't that sound different than what you saw on this week's news? I mean, just pick any part of the news. Now, there were some nice things. You know, if you watch the world news, you'll get about 29 minutes of, just in my case, just praying. And then you get to something where someone is doing something selfless and kind and generous, so we don't all just take our Xanax at the end of the news. But it's difficult to see how humans treat one another. I ran across this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Love is the greatest force in the universe. Now there's more to this quote, but just think about that one. Do you believe that love is the greatest force in the universe? Or is getting even or staying ahead of others or stomping on others, is that the greatest force? He says, love is the greatest force in the universe. It is the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. He who loves is a participant in the being of God. And that's aloha. That's real aloha. Aloha doesn't mean just something that you have on your license plate. It doesn't mean that you just live here in Hawaii. And I love Kailua. We just moved closer to the church. So I walked to church today. Yay! Hey, I'll tell you a really good way to have fun if you want to try this sometime. Get a shoulder replacement. Then file your federal, Hawaii, and California taxes, and then move. It's a hoot. It helps you to go deeper. But anyway, I love Kailua. I love the windward side, and I'm going to continue to go over there. I love the beach, a number of people I've connected with there. But I remember our neighbor across the street, Steve. And when I just moved in, I take walks. I take a lot of walks. I walk a lot. And so I wear that bright, luminescent tennis ball green. You know what I mean? The one that kind of stands out. And if it's still dark out at all, I try to find the brightest flashlight I can carry. And I obey all the pedestrian laws and all of that. And still, it can be quite dangerous, And so early on, my neighbor Steve said, and I apologize to all of you in Kailua, and if you do not like this statement, change it. He said, people here in Kailua don't drive, they aim. There's truth to it. I mean, not only Kailua. I know it, not only Kailua. And, there are people who are watching for you, and they're kind, and they see you starting in the crosswalk, and they stop their car. That's what you do when someone's in the crosswalk. You stop. You don't try to get by them with this much room to spare, okay? That's not aloha. So I've just noticed that not everyone practices aloha. But guess what? I can't control what other people do. As hard as I may try, I'll be in the car and we're driving along and I'll be telling my wife how these other people should be driving. And she said, you tell them, you teach them, you straighten them out. We can't control what other people do. But we can choose how we live. We can choose to be aloha ourselves. We are that presence of God in our world. So we can choose to be this presence. We can choose to be peace. We can choose to be reconciliation. We can choose to be forgiveness. We can choose to do our own work. We have a process in our spiritual community called the quantum living process. We encourage that for everybody. People who are becoming members, and some of you may come to the 12 o'clock community member orientation. We encourage of all of our members to take the quantum living process. And here's why. It's a natural tendency of human beings to project our shadow side onto others, to project our stuff onto others. As Carl Jung said, if you are not working on your shadow, you will project it on others. Not you might, you will. So we believe in working on that shadow stuff. That shadow stuff is like, well, I'm going to show them who's boss. That shadow stuff might be, oh, I don't feel good about myself. I'm going to be the victim. And once in a while, I don't know, do you ever play the victim? Once in a while? Once in a while, I found myself doing that. With this, once in a while, I'm like, people are running past me and some of them don't seem to see this and like they're aiming right towards me. I'm trying to get out of people's way. And, once in a while, I start doing this self-pity thing. But because I'm doing my shadow work, I catch it. I see it when it happens because I don't want to live there. Now, if you want to live there, fine. But I don't want to live there. I've lived in the house of self-pity before. In the house of self-pity, you give away your power because it's in the control of others. It's about what other people are doing to me. In the house of pity and being a victim, you are losing being in the presence of God. Because the presence of God is full of wholeness, oneness, peace, blessing. And in the quantum living process, we can move from that shadow side to embracing who we really are. So that's one of the things we can do to help promote aloha, to promote peace in our world, is to do our own individual work. To not just point out there and say other people need to be doing their work. We need to be doing our work. That's part of aloha, is doing our work. Otherwise, we're reactive and we'll project our shadow stuff on other people. I'm just going to read a portion of a letter that Marcia sent to me. Part of this was put together by a group of Sufis that I have been connected with, Marcia's been connected with, and Ibrahim Jaffe is one of those who is part of this group. He refers to himself as a Jufi. He was born as a Jew, he's from Jewish heritage, and he became a Sufi, so he calls himself a Jufi. And Their headquarters for this particular tariqa or branch of Sufism for years was in Jerusalem. So, here's just part of their statement. As part of the human family, we need to stop taking sides and learn to seek unity between all people. We need to find a way to bring peace and love to this situation in the Holy Land and to all areas worldwide that have been neglected. It is time to bring peace to our planet. Now, I'm not done yet, but my mind, when I first read that, I thought, oh, that sounds so pie in the sky. That sounds so fantasy. That sounds so, I don't know, wishful thinking. Peace on our planet. But the more I read this, the more I recognize that's what we're called to do. Jesus taught us to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is our obligation as human beings. What has just occurred in Israel is the straw that has broken the camel's back. We can no longer turn blind eyes to conflicts and must work as a unified people. As a unified people. We're all people. We're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. Unified people to find the solutions that will lead to peace. These solutions will be found at the causative levels, not just the surface, but what is the cause behind all that is happening within us individually and globally. These causes must be addressed and resolved. These are the teachings of unity. I had Ibrahim Jaffe come with others when I was the minister at Unity of Wichita, and he led workshops and so forth. There's one power and one presence. That's what we teach here. And because there's only one power and one presence, this is a truth that might be a little difficult for you to swallow, but I encourage you to chew on it. Because there's only one power and one presence, and that presence is God, that means that every single human being is the manifestation, is the outpicturing, is the expression of that presence of God. Every single one of you. Some people think that this is heresy. It's no more heretical than what Jesus said when he said, you are the light of the world. This is exactly what Jesus was saying. Or when Paul said, in God we live, move, and have our being. We need to wake up out of this nightmare of separation and realize we are all one. It's too much. Every situation calls us, is a call for love. Every situation is a call. Will you at this time accept oneness? Or will you go further in the separation and division? It's difficult, and I know we have to do difficult things sometimes to deal with conflict. But what I'm saying is, we are one. How do we individually and collectively act as one and treat others as one? Do you get to know people who believe and think differently than you? Do you get to know people who are from different ethnicities and different political perspectives? I remember at Unity in Marin, and some are watching here from Unity in Marin, and we put together this inclusivity statement, and you can see that statement on the website at Unity in Marin. We worked on it in our group that I was a part of. Worked hard on that. And I had some people read that, and they said, how about people of other political views? Because sometimes people of different political views feel ostracized. We are all one. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever you have gone through, you are loved. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, you are the presence of God. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, you are a blessing to this world. We are more because you are here. Recently, we had it was at the National Coming Out Day. Our church was invited to participate, so we went to University Hawaii Manoa, and we had snacks, we had affirmations, we had shell necklaces, we had all kinds of giveaways. And then we had the comedy duo of Reverend Tim and Reverend Johanna. And Jerry was next to us as well, representing the gay men's chorus. So lots of students came by. And do you know what the favorite thing was for the students? The snacks, the shell necklaces, the affirmations. We had 2 different kinds of free booklets. What do you think was their favorite thing? I heard people saying snacks. What else? Johanna? Maybe. It was the affirmations. We had these affirmations printed on cards, and on the back, information about our church. And those were the hot item. Some of them got snacks, and they really liked the free necklaces. They're like, really? These are free? Yeah. But the affirmations, they were hungry for that. And they would pick up an affirmation, and I'd say, would you read it aloud? And when they would read it, they wouldn't just read it, they were proclaiming it. They were affirming it with zeal, the power of our mouth. I am worthy of love, and I seek it fearlessly. That was one of the affirmations. There was a student there, tears started to come down her face. Several of them said, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. This was exactly for me. We had students come up to our table, say, where are the affirmations? Because word was getting out to the other students that there's some really good affirmations that speak right to you, and go to that unity table. We have something that can help heal our world. We have something that can help heal division and conflict. Working on our shadow side, working to really align in that spiritual presence. And in our world that is filled with so much conflict and so much comparison about our looks or our behaviors or lifestyles, in that kind of world, people are craving truth. Our soul is craving truth. God is calling, just as was in that reading today. God is calling. Go call once, twice, 3 times. If we take one step, that presence, God, will take 100 steps. All we need to do is open the door. That presence is here. I'm inviting you to accept that presence, to accept that presence of God, to accept that presence of peace, to accept the presence of who you really are, to accept that presence of love that God is, that presence of aloha, This is what I'm asking you to open the door to instead of being mesmerized and hypnotized by this world. Paul said in Romans chapter 12, do not be conformed, pressed into the mindset of this world, but be renewed. Be renewed. Let your mind be renewed. We don't have to follow like lemmings over the cliff. It's all about getting our way. It's all about fighting others. It's all about someone or something is against me. No, what we teach here is that there is only one power and one presence. And that means that presence is living as us. Therefore, we are not losers. Therefore, we are not defeated. Therefore, we are never, never, never alone. That means we are here with a purpose and on purpose. We have a message here that can change the world if we will live it. Thank you. I invite you to take a deep breath and just settle into this presence of God, this presence of peace, this presence of the I am. We know right where we are, the presence of God is, that we are not alone, that we are worthwhile because we are this presence. We are this presence of love, this presence of reconciliation, this presence of peace in our world. We are Aloha. We are here for a purpose. We are here on purpose. And I invite us to go into a minute of silence as we let this center in. Spirit of God, we are grateful for this presence living in, through, and as us, living in, through, and as this beloved community, knowing we are making a difference in our world.